Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. In today's video, we will be discussing Faction Crypts and why they are so incredibly valuable, not just in the early game for early game players, which they are, they will totally turbo boost your account, but also for late game players. We should all be spending a lot of time and focus on the Faction Crypts. There is so much value to be gained there, and I'm going to talk about exactly how and why that's true in this video. So very briefly, let's talk about what you can actually acquire from the Faction Crypts that you could get nowhere else in the game. The first here is the progress bar down at the bottom. Now you can get these resources from other places in the game, but they're rare resources and they're going to be very valuable wherever you can collect them. And this is another source of those particular resources. So as you acquire stars along the progress bar, you'll notice early on you're going to be getting some 3-star chickens, which can be very valuable. Some rare tomes, and also some shards here, some ancient shards. As you progress, you'll unlock void shards, epic tomes. As you continue, you'll get more of those. You can even start to get legendary tomes here, and eventually you're going to start getting some sacred shards. If you can continue down this path, the rewards get better and better until all the way at the end, you will finally get Lydia. Now, Lydia is at 945 stars, which means you need to get all 63 stars in every faction crypt that is currently open to unlock Lydia, the Death Siren. She's an amazing champion. She really is. In some ways, she's sort of an end game goal. For me, she was sort of one of the win conditions for Raid. I just got mine not that long ago, a few months ago. But obviously, you can do this faster if you focus more on faction crypts than I did on my account. And one of the reasons why I'm saying that Faction Crypts is so valuable, especially for endgame players, is because Lydia the Death Siren is out there waiting for you, and you can use her in so much content. So while the progress bar is a nice way to get some additional resources that are sort of rare and hard to get in other places, if you actually go into the Faction Crypts themselves, you also get 2 resources here that you literally cannot get from any other source other than maybe the occasional like tournament or event reward, but you can't farm anywhere else in the game. And the first is glyphs. So on the left side here, this little chest rewards you with glyphs. And on the right side, you get rare materials, or you can get epic materials. You can even get legendary materials you see as you go up. These materials are used in the forge, and these materials don't show up anywhere else in the game. So you have to come to the Faction Crypts in order to get these particular forge materials. So let's jump over to the forge to show you why those are so valuable. Here we are in the forge, and there are 2 sets that you can get from the materials that you collect in the Faction Crypts. The first is resilience. That comes from these will stones. And the second set is perception gear, and perception gear comes from the bloodstones. Now, those 2 different kinds of materials will drop with equal frequency. It's a 50-50. So you'll be collecting both of these as you farm Faction Crypts. Now, there are different rarities of these particular materials. So you have the rare rarity, you have the epic rarity, and then you have the legendary rarity. You can see you need the legendary level of material in order to forge 5- and 6-star gear, but even 4- and 5-star gear can be very powerful for an early or mid-game account, and so you can come in here and get those with rare and epic materials. It may seem that the resilience set is not that powerful, but I think early on getting access to potentially 5-star or even 6-star gear in an early game account is very useful. And this is a decent set for a lot of support and defensive based champions. So if you have a tank, or if you have, anybody who can just use some more survivability, this is a good set to put on them, at least for the time being. You may, level up and get more powerful and need a more powerful set at some point, and that's fine. But early game resilience is extremely powerful. You can also sell the trash pieces that you forge for silver, so it's an extra source of silver. Now, perception set is a bit different. This is one of the most valuable sets in the entire game. And even though you can start farming it early on and you're going to get a lot of value out of it early on, you will continue to need this set all the way into endgame. At endgame, you will probably have more perception gear on your champions than any other type of gear. It's not because it's the best set in the game, but it is because it is an extremely valuable set for a wide variety of champions. Anybody who needs accuracy and speed can benefit from this set. So you're going to have a lot of support champions, a lot of tanks, a lot of debuffers, a lot of people who have instant effects. You're going to have all of those champions in at least 2 pieces of perception gear, if not 6 pieces of perception gear. So you're going to need a large number of perception sets. And obviously it's good because if you're farming Faction Crypts, you're going to have access to a large number of perception sets. And also, all of this gear is going to be at a higher star rate and rarity in bulk than any other set that you're farming, simply because of the way that the numbers work in the Forge. So that brings us to the discussion about drop rate. Now, right here on this screen, you can go down and click the eye next to the chances, and it will tell you the drop rates for all of the Forge gear. Now, this is true for every set, so it's the equivalent for every set, but it's also true for the perception gear that we're talking about right now. Now, if you look up top, it says these are the crafting odds based on the artifact rank. So we're talking about 5-star, 6-star, 4-star. And as you can see, the rank range for the top gear does go down, but if you are using a rank charm, so these are the odds without rank charm on the left and with a rank charm on the right, you have a 50% chance of pulling 6-star gear when you are forging 5 or 6-star gear. That's a 50-50. That's an extremely high chance. In addition, you can look at the crafting odds for the rarity. Again, on the left is without a charm, and on the right is with a charm. So if you are using charms for your 5 and 6-star gear, you have a 50% chance of getting a 6-star, and then that 6-star has a 65% chance of being either epic or legendary. Only 35% of the time will it be a rare. Okay, so if we calculate that out, and we consider 6-star epics and legendaries to be the best gear, then what we're saying is you have a 32.5% chance of rolling the best gear or having the best gear drop from a forge usage, right? So if you are forging gear and you go ahead and try it, you get a 32.5% of the time, you're going to get excellent 6-star gear. That is a much higher rate than anywhere else in the game. And just for comparison, let's go look at some drop rates from the dungeons. Okay, so here we have a dungeon loots table and drop rates. This is from ayumilove.net. It was created by a player named Bobo. I don't know who that is, but this chart has been around for a long time. And it only outlines stages 1 through 25, so not the hard mode dungeons. But we're usually going to be farming gear in the normal stages. So let's go ahead and take a look. Let's say you are a very end game player or late game player. Maybe not very end game, but at least you've gotten to a point where you can comfortably farm stage 25 of, say, the Dragon or the Fire Knight. If you look at the drop rates, we know that only 32% of the time are we going to get 6-star gear. So that's down from the 50% in the Forge, 50% to 32%. And then in addition, we have a 45% chance here of getting at least the highest level, 2 levels of gear, epic or legendary. And that is down from 65% here to 45%. So as you can see, in both cases, we're getting better rates from the Forge. And if you calculate this out, what this is going to give you is about a 15% chance of getting 6-star gear that is epic or higher. We just said in the Forge, you have a 32.5% chance of getting a 6-star piece that is epic or higher. So your odds are twice as good in the Forge as they are at stage 25 of the dungeons. And you can get 5 and 6-star gear much sooner through the Forge than you can potentially get to stage 25 in these dungeons. If you're getting to stage 25 in these dungeons, I guarantee you are farming the levels in Faction Crypts that are high enough to drop legendary Forge materials. So let's actually look maybe at a comparable stage. What stage of dungeon are you likely to be able to farm when you are getting those legendary materials from Faction Crypts, at least some Faction Crypts? And I would say probably somewhere between stage 16 and 20 on, let's say, the dungeon, the Dragon dungeon, is about when you should be able to fairly comfortably get a regular income of the legendary Forge materials. And so if I look at stage 16, I can see I have an 8% chance of dropping 6-star and then a 30% chance of epic or better, which means I have roughly a 2.5% chance of getting a 6-star that's epic or higher. That's versus a 32.5% chance in the Forge. So at this point, I'm getting 13 times the good drops in the Forge that I am getting in the highest dungeon I can farm. Even if we go to stage 20, and let's say we're doing that a little bit better, you can see it's 25% chance. You no longer have to worry about 4-star drops here, which is the nice bonus of stage 20. Now it's all going to be 5-star or 6-star, but we've got 27% here at about a 32.5% rate for excellent gear. And so that's about a 9%, just under 9% chance of getting good 6-star gear. Again, versus 32.5% that I could potentially be doing well before I can clear stage 20 and farm stage 20 of the dungeons. One last thing I wanted to mention about the crafting odds here in the Forge is that these odds are true for every single set. So if you are a late game or end game player and you are crafting some of the other sets, not the Perception set and the Resilience set, but if you're looking for the other end game sets, they are dropping at these rates as well. So if you are interested in crafting, let's say, a Guardian set, or you're interested in crafting a Bolster set or a Defiant set, or any of the other sets that are more end game than the ones that we've been talking about, the drop rates are the same here. And you should probably be living in the Forge as an end game player as much as possible. And you should still be farming Faction Crypts as much as possible, because even in the end game, those Perception sets are going to be powerful for you, not just because of the set and the bonuses of the set, which are excellent, but because this is your best chance to get 6-star epic and legendary gear. And that's really where you want to live when you are at endgame. You want the most powerful gear possible for your champions. Just in case you're not convinced yet, I think you probably should be, that the Faction Crypt materials are incredibly important, but you have to remember glyphs also drop. Now, you might not think that low-level glyphs or glyphs in general are that important, but I want to show you just a champion I built on this particular account. Now, Deacon Armstrong is a central champion to this account, and he needs to be built pretty quickly and with some good accuracy. So what I want to show you here is his total speed is 248. So let's go and see how much of that speed he is getting from his glyphs. So here we've got 4 speed on the weapon. Helmet, that's 3, so that's 7. Shield is up to 9. Gauntlets are up to 11. Chest plate is up to 12. And then over here on the banner, we get 1 more, so we're up to 13. Now, obviously, a lot of these are just 1 point of speed on each, but I could increase that so I could get more speed. On my Arbiter, on my main account, I'm getting more than 30 speed simply from glyphs. Okay, so whether it is an early game champion or a late game champion or anywhere in between, your glyphs will continue to get stronger as you farm the higher and higher stages of Faction Crypts. And this is not just speed. Look at all the other stats I'm also getting. So obviously I can be getting accuracy here. I've got 4. We know that accuracy is important for a debuffer. I'm also getting survivability from defense and resistance. Here I'm getting more accuracy. Here I'm getting resistance, accuracy, speed, and HP, all great stats for Deacon Armstrong. So the accumulation of these small bonuses over the course of 9 artifacts, right? Because we have the 6 armor pieces and then the 3 accessories. So you've got 9 chances to start building stats, and each piece has 4 stats, right? Even if you started at rarity, when you get to a level 16, you're going to have 4 stats that you can potentially glyph out. Now, you can't glyph out crit rate or crit damage, but everything else can be glyphed. So potentially you might be glyphing as many as 30, 32, 35 stats. And so that is a huge number of additional stats, bonus like stats you can get onto your champion simply from glyphs. Okay, so now let's actually talk about getting into the crypts themselves and how you want to approach it. So I'm going to jump into this Ogren Tribe crypt right here. As you can see, I have 3-starred all the way up to the first boss. I was not able to 3-star the first boss, but that's okay. I was then able to push past that boss, more 3 stars all the way up to stage 10, and then I am on stage 11. Now, if you are early in the game or in the mid game and you want to think about, like, where do I have my objectives? What are the most important objectives in the Faction Crypts? The first objective is actually probably to get to stage 8. So you need to get through that first boss and get to stage 8. Now, the reason is you want these epic materials for 4 and 5-star Forge gear. You can get those materials from the boss, but the boss tends to be harder than the stages that follow. So as you can see, I wasn't able to 3-star that, but I can 3-star stage 8, and I can even auto farm all the way up to stage 11. So at stage 11, I'm getting a lot more epic materials. The next objective would actually be stage 13. So before the second boss, this is the first stage that is going to give you legendary materials. So this is a very important stage to get to. So if you can push to stage 13, that's a great place to farm. Getting past the second boss is going to be very difficult, but if you can, you then start farming stage 15 or however far you can push all the way up to stage 20, and then you have to worry about the stage 21 boss. As far as what you need to clear an entire Faction Crypt, probably at least 1 level 60 and the rest are going to be level 50s. or maybe even you'll need 2 or 3 60s, depending on which champions you actually level up in the faction. The better the team composition, the fewer level 60s you'll need to complete a particular crypt. Also, some crypts are harder than other crypts and require sort of different solutions. So in some crypts, you may be able to complete it with all 50s, and in others, you might need 3 or maybe even 4 level 60s before you're going to feel comfortable to complete stage 21. However, right now, we're just really caring about how far can we push? Can we get some of those epic materials? Can we maybe get some of those legendary forge materials for 5 and 6 star gear, which would be fantastic. You should be able to do this in some crypts, but in every crypt, in every single crypt in the first few months of the game, you should be hopefully able to get to at least stage 8, if not stage 13. And I'm going to show you my team here at stage 11, and you'll see it's not that difficult to put together a team that works. So this is my team. The first thing you'll notice is I do have a 6-star champion here that's fully ascended, and that is my Siege Hulk. Siege Hulk is on my clan boss team, and so I have him built well. The rest of these champions are all at 4-star level 40. So I was able to get to stage 11 with only 1 6-star. And in fact, if I leveled up some of these champions to say 50, I would probably be able to get into the teens at the very least, maybe stage 15, 17, somewhere along there. So you don't need that many 6-stars. You also don't need that many 5-stars to at least be farming the epic level of forge materials. I'm going to quickly show you the builds I put on these champions to even emphasize that further. So here you can see my champions from that team. And obviously Skull Crusher is built very well with a lot of 5-star gear. He does still have a 4-star piece here and a 4-star banner. But the other champions here, I've got Gear Grinder actually in 4-star pieces that I've pulled out of the forge based on farming. So this is all farmable gear that's basically free. And then when he outgrows it, I can go ahead and sell that off. Rocktooth here, not very good pieces. He does have a level 16 chest piece. I probably stole that from somebody else who got a gear, that I re-geared in better gear. And again, even a level 4 gauntlet here. Siege Hulk, who provides most of my AoE damage, is in okay gear, but even some 3-star pieces. And then you'll notice my old Gruckus, who's another support, is in a Frost set. I just happen to have those lying around, and I thought I don't use the Frost set too much, so I went ahead and put them on old Gruckus here for a little bit of extra CC. But even here with my Gear Grinder, you can see I don't have a ring on him, so there are still growth potential here in this team by either leveling up the gear, putting additional accessories on them, getting to them to 5 stars, or whatever I need to do to push further stages of Faction Crypts. But so with 1 level 60 and a bunch of pretty trash built level 40s, I'm going to actually crush this stage 11 on auto. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. You don't have to watch it, but I'll show you the result at the end so you can see what kind of time investment we're talking about. Okay, as you can see, we autoed this in 3 minutes and 44 seconds. Our best time is 3:08, so it's not fast. It's not super slow. You can certainly put this on auto and then walk away, do something, and then come back and it'll be completed for you. But here I've gotten 7 of the epic materials, and that's important because I need those materials both for 4 and 5-star gear if I'm going to forge those, or also for the 5 and 6-star gear. I need epic materials in addition to the legendary rarity materials. So this was a very good run for me. I could continue to do this and collect these. I also got a 4-star glyph, which is a nice high-level glyph, especially if you're early in the game. But even late in the game, I like 4-star glyphs. I happen to put 4-star glyphs on a lot of champions where that stat isn't super important. Maybe it's like a secondary or tertiary stat. So I don't use the 5 and 6-star glyphs for those champions. I save the 5 and 6-star glyphs for champions where that is the primary stat. Okay, so as you can see, you don't need high-level champions in order to progress fairly far in the Faction Crypts. You do want probably level 40s. You can even get away with some level 30s early on. You can probably even get to the first boss, maybe past that first boss, and up to stage 8 with level 30s. But I want to show you some places where you can think about holding on to specific champions and getting value for them in Faction Crypts. The first one is anytime you pull an epic champion. Anytime you pull an epic champion that's not an epic champion you're super excited about building to 6 stars, you can go ahead and build them to level 40, put a little bit of your trash gear on them, maybe some 4-star gear, and get some value out of them in Faction Crypts. So don't automatically feed your epics that you don't like. You may want to hold on to them, at least for Faction Crypts, until you start collecting more champions in that crypt. Additionally, I want to look at the permanent fusions here. There are several permanent fusions in the game. There's Relic Keeper, Razin Scarhide, and Broadmaw. You can ignore Emic Trunkheart up here. That is a limited time fusion. But you can take any of these champions that you're going to do fusions for and level them up to wherever they need to be for that fusion and then use them in your faction crypts. So here for Broadmaw, obviously you can get all of these champions to level 30 and then use them in faction crypts until you go ahead and fuse them into Broadmaw, and then you'll have him for a faction crypt. Or you could go into Relic Keeper, and here you have all these level 30s, you have these level 40s. Again, until you actually fuse your Relic Keeper, you can use these champions in your faction crypts. And finally, Raz and Scarhide actually gives you tons of options. You've got 16 rares here that all need to be at level 40. So if you only have 14 of them, or you have 12 of them, or 7 of them, you can level those up to level 4, 4-star, get them up to level 40, 4-star ascended, and then use them in your faction crypts. Again, don't put great gear on them because it's going to cost you money to remove that gear when you fuse them, but you can get some, throwaway pieces that you just have lying around, some 3-4-star gear, put them on these champions and get value out of them in faction crypts. As you progress up the stages of the faction crypt, it's going to get harder and harder, and you're going to have to start choosing champions in those factions to help you progress. Now, you don't want to just 6-star any old champion in the faction, and you don't want to throw away 6 stars that you could use on other champions that might be more valuable. But what you can do, there are 2 things you want to consider at least. And one is when you're deciding on your next 6-star, if it's close between 2 good champions that you think are both valuable 6 stars, maybe look at your faction crypts and decide which faction crypt needs to progress more, which one needs more help. So for instance, let's say you are debating between someone in the Sacred Order and then someone in the Dark Elves, and you're like, I have 2 good champions here. Maybe you are thinking about, I don't know, maybe you have a Madame Ceres that you were thinking about building in the arena, and then you have in Sacred Order, let's say you finally pulled a Deacon Armstrong, and you're also thinking about building him in the arena. They are both drop defense champions, so they both have that value. The utility of Deacon Armstrong is he gives some turn meter increase, while the utility of Madame Ceres is she removes buffs from the enemy. So they're both very good champions. They're both worthy of 6 stars, but they do kind of the same job. So the question is, if you don't need one more than the other, if you're just going to put them into arena, let's say, and they could be a substitute for one or the other, think about, does the Sacred Order need more help, or does the Dark Elves faction crypt need more help? And depending on that, that might help you decide between 2 champions that are otherwise very similar and very close in terms of, how likely are you to 6-star them next. The second tip I want to give you is that in every single faction, there are certain roles you're going to want in your faction roles in most cases. And the most important is probably a reviver. You're probably going to want a reviver because 3-starring a faction crypt without a reviver can be tricky, especially if you don't have a lot of 6-star level 60 champions. So if you're trying to complete it with level 50 champions, you're going to want a reviver somewhere. And some factions don't have a lot of revivers. So you can go into a faction. Let's say we go into Undead Horde, and we say, okay, we're not really pulling in a lot of legendaries. We're going to focus on the epics. How many revivers are here in this faction? And I think there's only 1 here. There might be 2, but I know that Gorgorab is a reviver. He's got a full team revive, revives any dead allies. That means all dead allies with HP. So Gorgorab is very good in the arena, but he can also be incredibly powerful in the Undead Horde's faction crypt. If you can find another reviver who is maybe a rare, you can also do that. And in some factions, I have done that. So for instance, what we just saw was the Ogren tribes, and Gear Grinder has a revive. He's actually a good rare reviver. Revives 1 dead ally on a 5-turn cooldown. That may be all you need. Maybe you just need 1 revive. You can level Gear Grinder up to level 50, keep him there forever, make him nice and tanky so he won't die, and then he can bring back your other champions who die. There may be other roles you want to consider, like cleansers or block debuff buffers. Anybody who puts up a block debuff is really strong. You may want some turn meter control. You may want some wave clear. You can put anybody who has an AoE A1 in a stun set and give yourself some extra crowd control. You're obviously going to want a damage carry, whether that's for clearing waves or killing bosses. So those are roles you want to consider. And obviously, this is not the place where you just start building champions to complete faction crypts. You do this, you build your 6 stars based on what you need in Clan Boss and Doom Tower and the dungeons and Iron Twins and all of those places. Maybe Hydra, maybe Arena. But you can think about the 5 stars you might eventually need in these various factions who do those roles. I would generally say your damage dealers should be 6 stars because you're going to get a lot more value out of a 6-star damage dealer. but all of your support champions, your tanks, your protectors, your cleansers, your debuffers, in most factions, you can get away with those at 5 stars and get all the way through stage 21. Okay, so that is it. Obviously, there's more to Faction Crypts. You want to learn about the boss fights. You want to learn about the different stages. Certain stages are a lot harder than other stages, depending on the enemies you come up across. And then, obviously, where you are in the game will matter. How close are you to getting Lydia? Do you need to push those Faction Crypts to get that amazing champion? Or are you just primarily in Faction Crypts to farm those forged materials? And by the way, that is a great thing to do. So be in that Faction Crypt, whatever you can do, whatever is the highest level of the Faction Crypts that are open today, go farm that and then do it again tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And you'll be amazed at how much power and progress your account will accumulate simply based on your efforts in Faction Crypts. Okay, that is it for me today. If you've enjoyed this video, please click the like button. Go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. And feel free to join our Discord community. The link is in the description below. I've been Colred. Thank you so much. I will see you in another video soon.